We live or are we not? Definitely live on YouTube. And now live on Facebook as well. There we are. I'll give it just a moment. In fact, maybe I'll strum around on my guitar while we wait for the 10 o'clock hour to start. We're still 2 minutes ahead of schedule, which is not a usual thing in the story time, but it is what it is. So. Almost there. Almost there. Oh, I see Shay has joined us on YouTube as well as a few others. So far, no comments or anything on Facebook. That's okay, though. You know what? No more guitar. Let's get started. Oh, come now. Stand. There we are. Hello, everyone. Hello. I promise I'm here. And we're getting started. It's just about 10 o'clock, and it is Saturday, which can only mean one thing. You know what it is, right? It's time to read some stories. 10 o'clock, Saturday, time to read some stories because this is story time. And of course, the stories we're reading this evening are Russian fairy tales. Yes, Russian fairy tales. Well, thank you, Shay. I'm glad you like it. We're waiting on a few others to make it here. And we're very much looking forward to getting started. While we do that, a little banter, just letting you know about, the stream. I mentioned last night I may be moving story time up a bit earlier in the evening because 10 o'clock is a little late for some people, and it's also a little late for me if I ever want to get an early morning workout. The two do not combine well. So I may move this a bit earlier. Hello, Debbie. Glad you're here. Good to see you. But anyway, I will keep you all notified on that front, whether or not I decide to change the time of story time. In the meantime, make sure, if you haven't already, join the Storytime Facebook group. It's just called Storytime, 2 words, exclamation point at the end. And also, don't forget to follow me on YouTube. The page is B Pokorny1. B as in boy, P as in price, OKORN as in next, Y the number 1. So, B Pokorny1 on YouTube. Like this video and subscribe now. I was pointing down to the subscribe button. Anyway, follow me on YouTube as well. And for when I do get back into streaming there, you can find me on Twitch under the tag Brett Doesn't Game. All one word, no punctuation, no apostrophes, anything like that. So, now that we are here, it's time for us to read some Russian fairy tales, is it not? While we're here, feel free to leave a comment if you would like a shout-out. Hello, Amber. I see you have joined us. Glad you're here. Looks like we've got about 4 viewers on YouTube. So, like I said, you want a shout-out, leave a comment, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. I will periodically check to make sure whether or not comments have been left. There. In the meantime... Come now, why aren't you showing up? Well, I've got this external hard drive that's just not wanting to participate. I was going to look for some of my older stories so I could read one of those tonight, but alas, it just doesn't want to work right now. It's okay. Next time I'll do that. I think I want to get to bed a little earlier tonight anyway. So what I'm going to do is just read Russian fairy tales this evening. We won't worry about any original stories, much as I like telling them. So here we are. We are beginning the evening with a story called The Jester. Everyone ready? Everyone settled in? Do you have your milk? No milk. Oh, that's okay. Next time. I have whiskey if you'd like. Next time. The Jester. In a certain village there lived a jester. A priest decided to visit him and said to his wife, "I think I will go to the jester. Perhaps he will play some clever trick to amuse me." He made ready and went. He found the jester walking around his yard, tending his farm. "May God help you, jester." "Welcome, father. Whither is God taking you?" "To you, my dearest one. Won't you play a trick to amuse me?" "With pleasure, father. Only I left the trick with 7 other jesters, so dress me up warmly and give me your horse that I may go and fetch it." The priest gave him his horse, sheepskin, and cap, and the jester drove away. He came to the priest's wife and said, "Little mother, the priest has bought 12,000 pounds of fish. He sent me to you on his horse. He wants 300 roubles." The priest's wife straightway gave him 300 roubles. The jester took them and drove back. He came home, put the sheepskin coat and the cap in the sledge, set the horse free in the enclosure, and hid himself. The priest waited and waited, finally lost patience, and returned to his wife. She asked, "Where is the fish?" "What fish? What do you mean?" "The jester was here to get the money, and he said that you had bought 12,000 pounds of fish, and I gave him 300 roubles. Thus the priest learned what kind of trick the jester had played on him. Oh, clever boy and dumb priest. The next day he again went to the jester. A dumb priest and dumb priest's wife, both of them. Dumb, dumb, dumb. The jester expected him. He had disguised himself as a woman and was sitting by the window spinning. Suddenly the priest appeared. "May God help you." "You are welcome." "Is the jester home?" "No, father." "But where is he?" "Yesterday he played a trick on you, and since then he has not been home." "What a rascal! He will probably come home tomorrow." On the 3rd day the priest came again, and the jester was still not at home. The priest thought, "Why should I come here for nothing? This girl is probably his sister. I will take her to my house and make her work off my money." He asked her, "Who are you?" "A relative of the jester's." She said, "I am his sister." "The jester took 300 roubles from me. So come, my little dove, work them off." "Well, if I must go, I will." She made ready, went with the priest, and lived in his house for a long time. Keep in mind, this she is the jester in disguise as his own sister, I think. The priest had several young daughters to marry. One day the matchmakers came to him. A rich merchant wanted to marry his son to one of the priest's daughter, but the priest's daughters were not to the merchant's liking, and instead he asked the prince's cook, the jester's pretended sister, to marry his son. There was a gay feast and a wedding, so I was right. It's still the jester. There was a gay feast and a wedding. Everything was done in the proper way. That evening, the pretended bride said to her husband, "Drop me out of the window on a sheet. I want to get some fresh air. When I shake the sheet, pull me back." The husband dropped her into the garden. The supposed wife tied a she-goat to the sheet, shook it, and the bridegroom pulled it back. When he dragged it into the room, he found a she-goat instead of his wife. He began to shout, "Oh, evil people that have bewitched my wife!" Everyone rushed to his room and began to exorcise the she-goat. The women began to conjure her, trying to turn her into a woman again, and in the end tormented her so much that she died. This poor goat. Meanwhile, the jester came home, changed his clothes, and went to the priest, who welcomed him and invited him to stay and dine with him. The jester ate and drank, talked about one thing and another, and then asked, "Father, where is my sister? Did you not take her into your home?" "I did," answered the priest, "but I married her to a rich merchant." "What do you mean? Without my permission?" "Does the law permit that? I'll sue you in court." The priest began to argue with him, begging him not to sue. The jester obtained 300 roubles from him. Then he said, "Now, father, take me to my brother-in-law. Show me how they are living." The priest did not want to start a new argument, so he went with him. When they came to the merchant, who received them hospitably. The jester sat there for a long time, but his sister did not appear. Finally he said, "Kinsman, where is my sister? I have not seen her for a long time." The others began to get restless. He asked again. They told him that evil people had bewitched his sister and changed her into a she-goat. "Show me the goat, then," said the jester. They said, "She died." No, she-goat died. You killed my sister. How could she change into a goat? I will go to court about this." They began to beg him. Please don't go to court. We'll pay you whatever you ask. Give me 300 rubles, then I won't sue you. They counted out their money. The jester took it and left, made a coffin somewhere, put the money in it, and drove home. He's really only asking for 300 rubles. I don't know how much that is. Maybe it's a lot, maybe it's a little. Either way, come on. And I see Gloria has joined. Hello, Gloria. Glad you're here. And there's Heather as well. Hello, Heather. Coffee, and yes, you're ready. Fantastic. On his way, he met the 7 other jesters. They asked him, "What are you carrying, jester?" "Money." "And where did you get it?" "It's very simple. I sold a dead man, and now I am carrying his coffin full of money." The jesters, without saying a word, went home, slew their wives, made coffins, put the coffins on carts, and drove into town calling, "What the hell? What the hell, man?" Calling, dead people, who wants to buy dead people?" When the Cossacks heard this, they immediately galloped over to them and began to lash them with whips. They lashed them for a long time, saying, "That will teach you to sell dead people. What the hell kind of story is this?" Then they drove them out of the town. The 7 jesters had a narrow escape. They buried their dead and went to the first jester's house to revenge themselves for the trick he had played on them. This motherfucker, pardon my language, he is sadistic. He was expecting them and had prepared everything in advance. They came, entered his house, wished him good day, and sat down on a bench. Now there was a she-goat running about in the jester's house. She ran and suddenly dropped a silver ruble. The jesters saw it and asked, How did the she-goat drop a silver ruble? How many she-goats does this jester have? Hello, Crystal, glad you have joined. How did it? She always drops silver coins. They began to press him to sell the goat. He stubbornly refused, arguing that he wanted her for himself. But the other jesters insisted, and finally he agreed to sell the goat for 300 rubles. Again with the 300 rubles. The jesters gave him the money and took the goat away with them. They put her in a room, spread rugs on the floor, and waited for the morning, thinking she'll drop a tub full of coins for us. Instead, she only befouled the rugs. Well, of course. Everyone in these tales is dumb. Or just really trusting. Maybe there's not a difference. Again, the jesters went to take vengeance on our jester. He knew that they would come and said to his wife, Now, woman, mind you, I am going to fasten a bladder full of blood under your arms. When the jesters come to thrash me, I shall ask you. Come on, pages, don't stick together. To serve dinner. The first time I ask you, don't heed me. The second time I ask you, still don't heed me. The third time I ask you, still don't heed me. I will snatch a knife and thrust it into the bladder. The blood will flow, and you will fall, pretending that you are dead. Then I will take a whiplash and lash you once. You will stir. I will lash you a second time, and you will turn over. I will lash you a third time, and you will jump up and set the table. The jesters arrived. Well, brother, they said, you have been cheating us long enough. This time we are going to kill you. Too bad. Kill me if you must, but let us have dinner together for the last time. Hey, woman, serve the dinner. She did not move. He ordered her a second time, and still she did not move. He ordered her a third time, and still she did not move. The jester took a knife and slashed her in the side. Blood flowed from her in streams. She fell to the floor, and the jesters became frightened. Hello, Mum. What have you done, you dog? Now you'll get us involved in this. Well, what the hell? You killed your own wives just a night or two before. What problem do you have with this, huh? What kind of... Quiet, boys. I have a special whiplash with which to cure her. He got the whiplash, lashed once, and his wife stirred. He lashed a second time, and she turned over. He lashed a third time, and she jumped up and began to set the table. The jester said, Sell us that whiplash. Buy it. How much do you want for it? 300 rubles. Surprise, surprise, surprise. 300 rubles again. The jesters counted out the money, took the whiplash, and went to town with it. They saw a rich man's funeral and cried, Stop, stop! The procession was stopped. We shall bring the dead man back to life. They lashed the dead man once, but he did not stir. They lashed him a second time with the same result. They lashed him a third, fourth, and fifth time. Still the dead man refused to stir. Then the good fellows were seized and given lashes in their turn, and the people who lashed them with whips kept saying, "That's for you, doctors! That's for you, doctors!" This time they were lashed until they were half dead. They somehow managed to trudge home, and when they had recovered, they said, "Well, boys, the jester has made fools of us long enough. Let us go kill him once and for all. Gonna do it for real this time, boys? You gonna do it for real, or are you going to fall for one more of his tricks? Huh? Are you? Let's see. Let's find out. What do you listeners, what do you think?" Low-key do the voice of Stewie Griffin, don't you? "You know, I don't think you're wrong. Perhaps it is a bit of a grown-up Stewie, isn't it? Well, so be it. It's not a bad voice, is it? But anyway, what do you guys think? Do you think they're actually going to kill the jester this time, or are they going to fall for another ruse?" "They're going to fall for another ruse." That's what I think. They made ready and went. They found the jester at home, seized him, and dragged him to the river to drown him. He begged them, "Please, let me at least say farewell to my wife and family. Bring them here." They agreed and went to get his family. After trying him in a sack and leaving him near the ice hole, they agreed and went to get his family after tying him in a sack and leaving him near the ice hole. They had no sooner left than a soldier drove by with a pair of bay horses. The jester coughed in his sack. The soldier stopped, got off his sledge, and asked, "Jester, why have you crept into this sack?" "Well, I eloped with so-and-so," he named the girl, "and her father began to look for us. We hid in sacks and had ourselves tied up and set down in different places in order to mislead our pursuers." The soldier was a widower, and he asked, "Brother, let me get into that sack." Then the jester obstinately refused, but the soldier pressed him and finally persuaded him. What a fucking jerk. The jester got out, tied the soldier in the sack, took his horses, and drove away. The soldier sat in the sack and finally fell asleep. That fucking jerk. Sorry for the language, but he's a jerk. The 7 jesters returned without our jester's family, took the sack and cast it into the water. The sack went down to the bottom, and the water made a gurgling noise that sounded like "Grey-glack, Grey-glack." The jesters ran home, sat down to rest, and our jester drove by their windows with a pair of fine horses, fine enough to take your breath away. "Stop!" shouted the 7 jesters. He stopped. "How did you get out of the water?" "Ah, you fools, didn't you hear me saying as I went down, 'Greys and blacks, greys and blacks'? I was fishing for horses. There are plenty of them, and what horses! What I have harnessed here is just trash, because they were near the shore. But a little farther down there are black horses, real prizes." The jesters believed him and begged, "Brother, drop us into the water. We too want to get some horses." "With pleasure." He tied them all in sacks and dropped them into the water, one after the other. When he had dropped them all, he just waved his hand and said, "Now drive out on your black horses." It's the end of the story. It's the end of the story. It shouldn't be called the jester. It should be called the murderer. Straight up. It should be called the murderer. Because he just murdered a bunch of people and got a lot of other people killed by pretending to have killed people and stuff. Don't particularly like that story. There's not a good moral in that one. Don't know what to say about it, though. Perhaps I'm missing the lesson. Maybe the lesson is don't be so damn gullible. Well, whatever. Whatever. No use getting angry over it. So, yes. Oh, hello, Mr. Green. I see you have joined as well. So anyway, that was that story. I guess we should move on to the next one, shan't we? Goodness gracious. Just don't be so damn gullible. I should take heed of my own advice there. I really should. Anyway, Let's move on. This next one is called The Precious Hide. In one village, there lived two brothers. Danilo, I actually have a friend named Danilo. I haven't seen him or talked to him in years. We just called him Danny, but his real name is Danilo. Danilo, I think Baptista or Bapti. I think it's Baptista. I think there's an A at the end. I should say hello to Danny, but not right now. We'll get back to the story. Again, this one's called The Precious Hide. In one village, there lived two brothers, Danilo and Gavrilo. Danilo was rich and Gavrilo poor. One cow was Gavrilo's only possession, and Danilo envied him even that. One day Danilo went to town to buy something, and upon his return came to his brother and told him, "Brother, why do you keep a cow? I was in town today and saw that cows can be had very cheap at 5 or 6 rubles a head, but hides are selling for 20 rubles. Gavrilo believed him, slaughtered his cow, ate the meat, and at market time went to town to sell his cowhide. A tanner saw him and asked, "Is that hide for sale, my good man?" "It is." "How much do you want for it?" 25 rubles. "Are you out of your mind? I'll give you 2 rubles and a half." Gavrilo refused to sell the hide at this price and dragged it around with him all day, but no one offered him any more. Finally, he dragged the hide to the bazaar. A merchant saw him and asked, "Is that hide for sale?" "It is." "What is your price?" 25 rubles. "Are you mad? Who ever heard of such an expensive hide? I'll give you 2 and a half. Gavrilo thought and finally said, "So be it, Mr. Merchant, I will accept your price, but give me at least a glass of vodka." "Very well, we won't quarrel about a drink." The merchant gave him 2 rubles and a half, drew a handkerchief out of his pocket and said, "Now, go to that stone house over there, give the hostess this handkerchief and tell her from me to give you a full glass of wine." So what I'm hearing so far is that the poor brother has an absolute jerk for an older brother. Is that correct? His older brother's an ass? I believe that's probably correct. Okay. Let us move forward. Gonna get tricked, yes, and they did get tricked. Let us move forward with the story and see where it goes from here. So the dude's not buying him a glass of vodka, but a glass of wine. Gavrilo took the handkerchief, went to the house, and the hostess asked him, "What do you want?" Gavrilo said, "Thus and so, Melanie, I sold your husband a hide for 2 rubles and a half, and a full glass of wine in addition. He sent me here to give you this handkerchief and ask you to serve me the wine." The hostess immediately poured a glass, but not quite a full one, and offered it to Gavrilo. He drank it and stood there. The hostess asked him, "Why are you still standing there?" Gavrilo answered, "Our agreement was for a full glass of wine." At that time, the merchant's wife had her lover in the house. He heard Gavrilo's words and said, "Pour him some more, sweetheart." She poured him half a glass. Gavrilo drank it and still stood there. Again, the hostess asked him, "What are you waiting for now?" Gavrilo answered, "Our agreement was for a full glass, and you gave me half a glass." "Aha, Gavrilo's got the upper hand here. He's going to get drunk for free." Well, maybe. We'll see. See what he does. Anyway, let us move forward. Moving forward. Whew. Where was I? "You gave me half a glass." The lover told her to serve him for the 3rd time. Then the merchant's wife took the wine decanter, put the glass in Gavrilo's hand, and poured so much wine that it overflowed the rim. Gavrilo had no sooner drunk his wine than the merchant knocked at the door. The wife did not know where to hide her lover and began to cry. "Where shall I put you?" The lover ran back and forth in the room, and Gavrilo after him, crying, "And where shall I go?" The woman opened the trapdoor and pushed them both in. The merchant came in, bringing guests with him. When they had drunk some liquor, they began to sing songs, and Gavrilo, sitting in the pit, said to his companion, "Do what you will, but this is my father's favorite song, and I shall sing it too. For heaven's sake, please don't sing. Here are 100 rubles for you. Only keep quiet." Gavrilo took the money and kept quiet. Oh, Gavrilo, you sly Dogrilo. That was terrible. I'm sorry for that. I really am sorry for that one. That was awful. So, been watching too much of The Office. I think Michael Scott is rubbing off on me. Gavrilo took the money and kept quiet. After a short time, the merry band above them began another song. Gavrilo again said to his companion, "Do what you will, but this time I must join them. This is my mother's favorite song. Please don't sing. Here are 200 rubles for you." This suited Gavrilo. He now had 300 rubles. What is it with the 300 ruble thing? He put the money in his pocket and kept quiet. Soon the guests began a third song. Gavrilo said, "This time give me 400 rubles or else I'll sing." The lover begged him not to and said that he had no more money. The merchant's wife heard them wrangling in the cellar, opened the trapdoor and whispered, "What is the matter?" Her lover asked her for 500 rubles. She quickly returned with the money, and Gavrilo took it and kept quiet. After a while, he noticed a pillow and a barrel of tar in the pit. He ordered his companion to undress. After the lover had undressed, Gavrilo... Really, you asked him to undress, did you? Wonder if he wondered why. And wonder why he so readily did so. Gavrilo smeared him with tar, then cut open the pillow and ordered him to roll in the feathers. After the man had rolled himself in the feathers, Gavrilo opened the trapdoor, sat himself astride his companion, and rode out, crying, "The ninth devil is leaving this house!" The guests became frightened and rushed home, thinking that devils had come. After all of them were gone, the merchant's wife said to her husband, "I told you that strange things were going on here." The merchant foolishly believed her and sold his house for a song. You know, Gavrilo was being clever, but then he helped a cheating wife get away with her cheating, and that's not okay with me. I think the cheater, the dude, well, he got tarred and feathered, so I guess that's all right. Gavrilo came home and sent his eldest son to ask Danilo to come to him and help him count his money. But Danilo laughed in his nephew's face. "What is there to count?" he said. "Can't your father count 2.5 rubles?" "Oh, no, uncle. Father has brought home lots of money." Then Danilo's wife said, "Go there, at least to make fun of him." What a fucking bitch. Sorry, that was an outburst. Then Gavrilo pulled out the pile of money before him. Danilo was surprised and asked, "Brother, where did you get so much money?" "What do you mean where? I slaughtered my cow and sold its hide in town for 25 rubles. For this money I bought 5 cows, slaughtered them, and sold their hides at the same price," and so on. Upon hearing that his brother had made a fortune so easily, Danilo, good, fuck you, Danilo. He went home, not my friend Danilo, but Danilo from the story, because he's a bastard. And yes, he's a bastard. Let's just leave it at that. Went home, slaughtered all his cattle, and began to wait for market day. And since it was summer, the flesh of the slaughtered animals rotted. When he brought his hides to town, no one wanted to give him more than 2.5 rubles for each. He was forced to sell them at a loss, and began to live more miserably than Gavrilo had ever lived. But Gavrilo became a sharp merchant and amassed a large fortune. So I guess the moral of that story is, don't be a bastard. I mean, some of the bastards in the story got away with it, but don't be a bastard to your family. Fuck that. Your family, they're your family. You should be good to them. Fucking Danilo's wife wanted him to go over there and make fun of Gavrilo. Fuck you. Oh, there is an illustration, by the way. I'll show you the illustration at the bottom of the page. Here it is. I suppose it looks like an infinity knot. So I guess, you know what? Now that I think about it, the moral of the story, and tell me if you agree, is probably what goes around comes around. So fuck you, Danilo. Yes, people do suck, Amber. Yes. And yes, Shane, the other story, they did spell homicidal maniac wrong. So yes, that was a terrible story. In some regards, great in others. But yes, I think what goes around comes around would probably be the moral of that one. So let's go ahead and read, I think probably, I can do 3 more. Well, no, let's do 4 more. 1 or 2 of them are really short. So we'll do 4 more for the evening, and then we will cut it. Cut it there. So let us keep on going. And then a cool tattoo. Perhaps it would be a cool tattoo, Amber. I don't have any tattoos that you're all allowed to see. I'll leave you to wonder about that. Yes, they are very grim tales, Mum. So, moving on. Moving on. The cross is pledged as security. That's the name of the story. The cross is pledged as security. In a certain town, there lived two merchants. Again, with two merchants. It's either, an old man and his old wife and three sons, or two merchants. Okay, let's see how it goes. You open that door, I'm going to walk in it. We'll cross that bridge another day, okay? First, we're going to read the cross is pledged as security. In a certain town, there lived two merchants at the very edge of the river. One was Russian, the other Tartar, like the sauce. It doesn't say like the sauce in the story. I just added that for flavor. But both were extremely wealthy. Now it came to pass that the Russian merchant went bankrupt as a result of some unfortunate dealings, and nothing was left of his wealth. All his possessions were seized. He was now in bad straits and as poor as a church mouse. He went to his friend the Tartar and asked him to lend him some money. The Tartar said, Who will be your guarantor? Whom shall I name? I have no one left. But wait a moment. Wait a minute. Let the life-giving cross on the church be your security. Very well, my friend, said the Tartar. I will trust your cross. What you believe is good enough for me. And he gave the Russian merchant 50,000 rubles. 50,000 rubles! Damn! Made him blush. Lucky that's all I made him do. No one makes me do anything I don't want to. And it's not blushing. I just got burned earlier today. I was in the sun. Don't worry, I kept my social distance. Anyway, back to it. 50,000 rubles! That sounds like a lot. The Russian took the money, said farewell to the Tartar, and again set out to trade in foreign lands. Yes, foreign lands. At the end of the 2 years, he had earned 150,000 rubles with the. So he tripled his money. That's amazing. Good job, dude. Maybe I should do that. I should try something like that. That'd be great. Yeah. Oh, it's in 2 years that he. Yeah, okay, that's not bad. He happened to be sailing with his goods on the Danube from one town to another. Suddenly, a storm came up, and the ship seemed about to founder, not flounder. I'm a good dude. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like you too. You're awesome. I appreciate the comments, and I appreciate you keeping up with these and subscribing and liking and all that. So, thank you. Hey. Yes, I just did a Fonzie. At the end of the to another. Suddenly, it started to do. The merchant then recalled that he had borrowed money against the security of the life-giving cross and had not paid his debt. He decided that this was the reason for the storm. He had no sooner come to this conclusion than the storm began to subside. The merchant took a barrel, counted out 50,000 rubles, wrote a note to the Tartar, put it in the barrel with the money, and threw the barrel into the water, thinking, since I gave the cross as security, the cross will deliver the money to its rightful owner. Oh, my. And good, I'm glad you're laughing, Heather. I'm trying to time my allowance. I miss these more often than I like. That's okay, Amber, nothing wrong there. I would say I miss them too, but here I am. The barrel sank to the bottom at once, and everyone thought that the money would be lost. But instead, what happened? The Tartar had a Russian cook. I fail to see the connection here. You throw a barrel in the water, but the Tartar has a Russian cook. Great. Oh, okay. Here's where it adds up. One day she went to fetch water at the river. She saw a barrel floating. She waded into the river and tried to grasp it, but every time she came close to it, it moved away. When she waded from the barrel to the bank, it followed her. She struggled with it for some time, then went home and told her master about it. At first he did not believe her, but then decided to go to the river and see this barrel for himself. He came and saw the barrel was really floating near the bank. He undressed, went into the water, and no sooner had he begun to wade than the barrel drifted to him by itself. The Tartar took it home, opened it, and found the money and the note. He read the note, which ran thus. The water had destroyed the ink. I'm kidding, that's not really how the story goes. The note read thus. My dear friend, I am returning to you the 50,000 rubles that I borrowed from you against the security of the life-giving cross. Look at that. All right. The Tartar read the note and was amazed at the power of the life-giving cross. He counted the money. The whole sum was there. Meanwhile, the Russian... He didn't give him any interest for the helper. Okay, all right. Meanwhile, the Russian merchant, having traded for about 5 years, had earned a handsome little fortune. He returned to his own town, and thinking that his battle had been lost, decided that his first duty was to settle his debt to the Tartar. So he came to him and offered him the money. Then the Tartar told the merchant everything that had happened, and how he had found the battle with the money and the note in the river. He showed the Russian the note and asked, "Is this really in your hand?" The Russian merchant answered, "It is." Everyone was amazed at the miracle, and the Tartar said, "So, you see, brother, you don't owe me any money. Take it back." The Russian merchant offered a thanksgiving service to God. The next day, the Tartar had himself and his family baptized. The Russian merchant was his godfather, and the cook his godmother. After that, both merchants lived long and happily. They reached a ripe old age and died in peace. I'm going to guess that the moral of that story, that's not a bad story. So let me show you the image. It's got the illustration at the bottom there. Pretty good. Pretty cool. I'm going to guess that the moral of that story is settle your debts. Settle your debts. Enough for you to read to us. Oh, it's fine. So if you think it's a different moral in that story, in fact, let's make that a new feature of these videos. Guessing the moral of the Russian fairy tale. If you have a guess as to the moral, if you remember the title of the tale, go ahead and comment that, followed by a colon, and then what you think the moral to be. This one was called "The Cross is Pledged as Security." And I'm guessing the moral of that one is to always settle your debts. Moving on, this is a very short one. It's called "The Daydreamer." I guess that makes it sense that it's short, because if you're daydreaming, you probably aren't writing the story. Ha-ha! A poor peasant walked in a field, saw a hare under a bush, and was overjoyed. He said, "Now I'm in luck. I will catch this hare, kill him with a whip, and sell him for 12 kopecks. Wait, why do you have to catch him to kill him with the whip? Oh, well, let's see. About the sex trafficking in Africa. Oh, that's interesting guess there. And sell him for 12 kopecks. For that money, I will buy a sow, and she will bring me 12 piglets. The piglets will grow up, and each bring 12 piglets. I will slaughter them. Oh, poor piglets. Slaughter them all and have a barn full of meat. Poor piglets. I will sell the meat, and with the money we'll set up housekeeping and get married. My wife will bear me 2 sons, Vaska and Vanka. The children will plow the field, and I will sit by the window and give orders. Hey, you boys, I will cry. Vaska and Vanka, don't overwork your laborers. Apparently you yourselves have never known poverty. And the peasant shouted these words so loudly that the hare was startled and ran away, and his house, with all his riches and his wife and his children, were lost. Well, shit. Shit. Stupid daydreamer. Stupid daydreams. I've had plenty of daydreams. How many of them resulted in me losing my future wife and children and house? Oh, gods. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Rabbit hole. Ha! Ha! Previous story, the daydreamer. Oh, yes. Morals. The moral of the story of the daydreamer. Don't daydream. You know, get right to the nitty-gritty. Don't dawdle. Something to that effect. I think it's a pretty straightforward story. Oh. Daydreaming is fun, but what if it gets you in trouble? What if you lose out on stuff? Oh, well, let's moving on to the next story. This one's called The Taming of the Shrew. Yes, The Taming of the Shrew. That sounds familiar to me for some reason. Meanie. Who's the meanie? Artist. The Taming of the Shrew. Martinko was lonely. I don't know who Martinko is, but he's got a weird name. That's probably why he was lonely. Just kidding, Martinko. Marty for short. Ah, yes, thank you, Mr. Green, for the reminder. He decided to get married and went to propose to the priest's daughter, Ustinia. The priest told him, Martinko, I would gladly give her to you, but how will you live with her? She is so capricious. Martinko answered him, Father, I am alone. With her there will be 2 of us, but there will be no one to be angry at and no one to quarrel with. See, there's where you're wrong, Martinko. Do not get involved with someone just because you're lonely. Been there. Not a good idea at all. It will blow up in your face. It's bad. Bad news bears. But anyway, you can make your own bad decisions if you like. Speaking from experience. And the priest agreed to give Ustinya to Martinko, and they were married. Martinko took his wife to his house. She asked, "When you get angry, what do you do?" He said, "When I am angry, I get drunk on water." Then he asked Ustinya, "And you, Ustinya, what do you do when you get angry?" "When I am angry, I sit on the stove with my face in the corner and put the front of my headband to the back." Next morning, our Martinko took his piebald horse to plough for the spring sowing. Ustinya made curd cakes and brought them to brought them to her husband. Where was I? Curd cakes, I know what it is. Curd cakes, and brought them to her husband, crying, "Peasant, come and eat." He pretended not to hear her and went on ploughing. Ustinya grew angry, went home, ate her cakes, and sat on the stove, turning her face to the corner. When Martinko came home, he drank 2 jugs of water, took a lamb and tore it asunder. Wow, that's a little overboard. Started to climb up to his wife on the stove, fell down, rolled on the floor as far as the door, and began to snore. So we're rhyming now, okay. His wife quietly got down from the stove, did not dare open the door, got wood through the window, made a fire in the stove, and cooked dinner for Martinko. He awoke, she served him his dinner, and asked him to take her to visit her father. Martinko harnessed the piebald mare to the sledge, although it was spring, and they set out. On the way, their mare refused to pull, so Martinko cut off her head and harnessed his Ustinya to the sledge. This guy's really got his priorities wrong and bad. And what is he doing? He cut off his mare's head and harnessed his wife to pull the... Okay. He drove to his father-in-law's house. The priest's wife and her daughters saw that Ustinya was dragging Martinko. They rushed out to meet the 2. Some of them pulled the shafts and some the ropes to help Ustinya. And the priest thanked Martinko for having given a lesson to all shrews. They came to the priest's house. This is getting stranger. Ustinya asked her family to keep water out of sight and to serve only wine and beer, saying that when Martinko drank water, he was terribly angry. The next day, a cook left a pail of water in the entrance hall. Martinko drank some water, became as foolish as a drunken man, and ordered Ustinya to harness herself to the sledge. She trembled and begged her father to give them his chestnut horse. The priest made them a gift of a horse. Martinko and Ustinya drove home, and to this day they are still living and chewing bread, and Ustinya is a most obedient wife. Okay. Fuck me, I don't know if there's a moral to that story. That was weird. Taming of the Shrew. I am stumped. Do any of you have a moral to that one? See if we can paraphrase. See if we can give this one a little, a quicker version. So, dude's lonely, marries a priest's daughter. Priest is just like, "You don't want to marry her, dude." And he's like, "Don't worry, I'm just lonely, so I'll marry her." They get married. They tell each other how they react when they get angry. She pouts. He gets super drunk on water because he has no tolerance and tears a goat apart with his bare hands and then tries to climb up to his wife and falls down and falls asleep. And then they go to see her father after dinner, and she tells them not to get him drunk. They get him drunk on water because, again, no tolerance. They give him a horse. Oh, sorry. On the way to her father's house, he cuts the head off of their own horse because it's not pulling them fast enough. And he ties his wife up to the cart to pull him. Then they're at the father's house. The family gets him drunk. Yes, step by step how to get a free horse. Family gets him drunk and angry. He ties her up to the cart again. They give him a better horse, and they go home, and now they're happy and chewing bread. I do not see a moral to this story. I am stumped. Don't drink and horse. Mr. Green, I like where you're coming from. We're going to say this. The moral of the story to The Taming of the Shrew is don't drink and horse. Yes, don't drink and horse. It's good. Don't forget your... yes, AA meetings are good, and don't forget your antidepressants. Yes, that makes sense as well. Well, I say we move off of that terrible story and move on to what's probably another terrible story. This one's called Quarrelsome Demian. Once there was a peasant who liked to pick a fight. He invited another peasant to his house, told his wife to set the table, and asked his guest to sit down. The guest said politely, "You shouldn't have gone to so much trouble, Demian Ilyich." Demian Ilyich slapped him in the face and said, "Always obey the master when you're in someone else's house." The guest sat down. The host offered him some food, and he ate. So immediately right here, we start off with a dude who's straight up a big-ass jerk. Or he just really likes theatrics. The host began to cut numberless slices of bread. The guest said, "Why do you cut so much bread, Demian Ilyich?" Demian Ilyich gave him another slap in the face, saying, "Don't give advice in someone else's house. Do what the host tells you." The guest became unhappy and then offered food, and when offered food, did not eat it, thus disobeying Demian, who kept beating him and saying, "In someone else's house, obey the master." Well, I guess that's Russia for you. So if you're in Russia, don't get drunk on water. Good advice, Shay. So if you're in Russia, maybe you should not disobey the people who are having you over for dinner, or else you might get the shit beat out of you and told, "Don't disobey the master in someone else's house." But I'm getting ahead of myself. No stories, no morals to the story guessed yet, because we still have plenty of story. At that moment, another fellow, shabbily dressed but lively and robust, opened the gate, and without being invited, rode into the yard. Demian went out on the porch and saluted him. "Welcome, welcome," for he wanted to thrash this guest too. What a fucking dick. The fellow was not backward. He removed his hat and said, "Forgive me, Demian Ilyich, for having come without first asking permission." "Never mind, you are welcome. Please come in." The fellow came in. Little did he know that he was walking in to the house of a lunatic. The host bade him sit down at table and ordered his wife to serve the dishes and bring bread. The fellow ate and ate without contradicting his host. Oh, perhaps he knew what a lunatic his host was. No matter how Demian tried to provoke this guest, he could not find a pretext for striking him. Finally, he resorted to tricks. He brought out his very best clothes and said to the stranger, "Take off what you are wearing, put this on." He thought to himself, "He will refuse out of politeness, and then I will thrash him. Fuck you, dickhead." But the fellow did not refuse. He put on the clothes his host gave him. Demian offered him this and that. Still the fellow did not quarrel. Demian brought out a good horse, saddled it with his best saddle, put a good bridle on it, and said to his guest, "Take my horse. Yours is a poor jade," thinking to himself that the man would surely refuse. But the fellow mounted the horse. "Yeah, take that, you dick." Demian told him to ride forth. He silently urged on the horse, went out of the yard, and said, "Farewell, Demian. The devil didn't send me. I came here of my own accord." And he was never heard of again. Demian followed him with his eyes, clapped his hands, and said, "Well, at least I've found my equal. Not he, but I was fooled. I wanted to thrash him, and instead I lost my horse." And his horse, with its trappings, was worth perhaps as much as 150 rubles. Well, that's half of the 300 we keep hearing about, so it must be a good amount of rubles. Fuck you, Demian. Good. You lost your horse. You deserve it for being a dick who likes to thrash people. Because fuck you. Stupid Demian Ilyich. Well, everyone, that's the end of the reading for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, yes. What do you think the moral was of Quarrelsome Demian? I think the moral was don't be a dick. Don't be a dick just for the sake of being a dick. And that's what Demian was doing, and he lost his horse as a result. So, yes, don't Don't be a bastard or a dick just for the sake of doing it. Oh, yes, Mr. Green, moral of the one, obey the master of the house you're a guest in. So, yes, a couple morals there. One, I'd say for sure, the Demian, in the case of Demian, don't be a dick just for the sake of being a dick. And two, obey the master of the house because it may get you something good. Oh, yes, you added, or get the shit beat out of you. That is very correct, Mr. Green. So anyway, everyone, that's the end of the stories tonight. That's the end of story time. It's almost 11 o'clock, about 10:50. And I think I've had a good time. I sure hope you have as well. Once again, if you're not already, join this Facebook Storytime group. It's Storytime, 2 words, ! At the end. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share it with your friends on your wall so that they can see it as well. And if you haven't, check me out on YouTube. B Picorni1, B as in boy, P as in price, OKOR as in next, Y, the number 1. It's B Picorni1. Find me on YouTube, like this video, subscribe down below, and share it with your friends. I want other people to join in. We're having fun, and they should too. Everyone is welcome for story time. That was a little excessive. I apologize. But anyway, everyone's welcome. And for the future, when I really do get back onto Twitch with more streaming there, you can follow me at my tag, Brett Doesn't Game. So there's that. Anyway, everyone, much love, much appreciation. Final round of shout-outs. Debbie, Crystal, Mum, Shay. Someone else was on here. Gloria. Yes, Gloria. Now to YouTube, we've got Shay again. Amber, Heather, Mr. Green. All of you, thank you so much for being here tonight. And you are welcome, those of you who are saying thank you. Fun time, have a wonderful night. Good night, bud. See you tomorrow. Had a lot of fun, and I love your responses to stories. Good night. Yes, keep sucking up. I love it. Anyway, good night. Love you all. Appreciate you. Until next time, that's tomorrow for more story time, and we will be resuming with even more Russian fairy tales. In fact, we will be kicking off the night with one that I think I kind of remember. I remember the title, at least. It's called The Magic Box. Once I had a girlfriend I called the Magic Box. Just kidding. That was dirty and it was wrong. I'm sorry. I don't know what's gotten into me tonight. Anyway, good night, everyone. Mwah, smoochy smoochies. See you tomorrow. Yes, I want to end it. Yes, I clicked end. You start trolling my ass. Why would you troll my ass? Why not just troll me? I beat you to the punch, Amber, about the Magic Box. All right, for real. Bye this time. See you guys.